They paid for his wedding. They ignored mine. Paid for his wedding and expected me to stay silent. But I planned the ultimate revenge. They shouted my name as if I were a villain. The music stopped. The guests froze. My mother dropped her wine glass. My father's face turned pale. My brother looked as if he had seen a ghost. And me? I stood in the center of the stage in a white dress, holding a microphone and smiling. Since you didn't plan to attend my wedding, I brought the wedding to you. Let me rewind. My name is Madison Reed. I'm 28 years old, engaged to the love of my life, and apparently still not good enough for my parents. Last summer, they spent nearly $95,000 on my brother Michael's extravagant vineyard wedding. White tents, string quartets, lobster tail for dinner, and a champagne fountain. They even gave him and his wife an all-expense-paid honeymoon in Bali. A few months later, when I got engaged to my fiancé Ethan, I wasn't expecting Bali. But I also didn't expect the silence. No congratulations. No, we're so happy for you. No offer of help. When I casually brought it up at dinner, my mom waved her hand. Well, Madison, you know we're still recovering from Michael's wedding expenses. You and Ethan are very independent. Independent. That was code for, we don't spend a dime on you. I wish I could say that this is something new. But as a child, Michael was always the golden boy. Captain of the soccer team. Straight A's. His mother's pride. His father's legacy. And me? I was artistic. Translation. Too emotional, too dramatic, too different from everyone else. I wore black in high school. Got a scholarship to art school. I chose photography over law or medicine. My parents nodded and smiled on holidays, but never really saw me. Until that moment. Because I was going to make them see me. To feel me. Remember me. Forever. Michael's wedding was a circus of superficial perfection. Everything was white and gold. The girls with the flowers were choreographed. Even the cake was escorted by security. I remember standing on the sidelines, sipping flat champagne, watching my parents beaming with pride. My mom sobbed as Michael said his vows. Dad made a toast to raising a strong, noble man. I didn't get a toast. There was not even a conversation. When I told my mom 2 months later that I was engaged, she blinked. Oh, already. They didn't ask about the date, or the dress, or the venue. So I stopped telling them. Ethan and I had just gotten back from touring a small venue. I was excited. It was within our budget, beautiful and intimate. Then I got a text message. It was from my mom. Michael and Jenna are thinking of renewing their vows next spring. We would like to throw a big party for them. You'll come, won't you? And that was it. No questions about my wedding. Just another holiday for Michael. I laughed. Then I cried. And then I decided. If they don't come to my wedding, I canceled the venue. I sold the dress. I canceled all the plans that Ethan and I had made. Instead, I got to work. Step 1. Order a catering company. Discreet, fast, and able to organize everything in less than 2 hours. Step 2. Hire a live band with backup equipment. Step 3. Prepare invitations with the words, private surprise party, for family only. Step 4. Tell my parents that I'm throwing them a surprise anniversary party. They were thrilled. Of course they were excited. They had no idea they were walking into the event they were trying to ignore. My wedding. And it was going to be unforgettable. It was go time. The caterers arrived at 6 a.m. sharp. Tables went up. Chairs aligned in neat rows on the freshly mowed lawn of the community garden I'd rented under my parents' name. The same place Michael had held his bridal brunch months earlier. Delicious irony. Ethan and I coordinated from the shadows. My best friend Ava was running point with the vendors, making sure no detail slipped. The dress? It had returned. Not the one I sold. A new one. Sleeker. Simpler. Powerful. This wasn't about lace and glitter. This was about a message. By noon, the tables were dressed. Florals arranged. My anniversary signs carefully mounted. Everything screamed elegant celebration, with just enough mystery to keep guests curious. And then, the cars began to pull in. Family members. Friends. Distant cousins. Even Jenna's annoying aunt from Ohio who always brings her yappy dog. Everyone came dressed in summer garden attire, holding wrapped gifts and bottles of wine. Where's the happy couple? One uncle asked. I smiled. You'll see. I changed behind a pop-up screen in the corner of the garden shed. Ava zipped me up. You ready to blow it up? She asked, grinning. I looked in the mirror. I didn't see the forgotten daughter. I saw the bride they never expected. Let's do this, I whispered. My parents were late. Of course. They always liked to make an entrance. When their car finally rolled up, the party was already buzzing. My dad stepped out in a navy suit. My mom in a floral maxi dress and too much perfume. They beamed. "Madison, this is beautiful," my mom called out. "You really went all out," Dad added. "You didn't have to." "But I did." I guided them toward the head table. There were no place cards. Just a single envelope on each plate. They didn't notice. Yet, Ethan appeared beside me, dressed in a sharp gray suit. He kissed my cheek. "You sure?" he asked. I nodded. "Okay. Showtime." The band began to play. Slow, sweeping strings. A melody that sounded vaguely familiar. The guests turned, and I walked down the makeshift aisle between tables, straight to the small stage we'd set. Ethan followed behind. A hush fell over the crowd. I took the mic. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate my parents today. But this party isn't just for them." I took a deep breath. "It's also for someone they forgot." Gasps. I gestured toward Ethan. "This is my husband." More gasps. "And this is our wedding." Shock. Confusion. Whispers. I looked at my parents. Their faces? Priceless. And this was only the beginning. You could hear a pin drop. Then, like dominoes tipping one after another, murmurs rippled through the guests. One woman gasped. A man near the bar dropped his champagne flute. My cousin Sophie pulled out her phone in shock. My mother stood from her seat like she'd been burned. My father didn't move. I held the mic tighter. I know this is unorthodox, but that's kind of the point. Some guests clapped. A few awkwardly. Some didn't know what to do. "I didn't invite you here just to expose anyone," I said, eyes locked on my parents. "I invited you here to show you what love looks like when it's not filtered through favoritism or forgotten entirely." My mother stormed toward me, her heels stabbing the grass with each furious step. "What is this? A stunt?" "No," I said, my voice calm. "This is a wedding. Mine. The one you ignored." She glanced around, then hissed, "You're humiliating this family." Funny. I thought the humiliation started when you acted like I didn't exist. People began gathering around us. Whispers turning into quiet alliances. "You think this makes you the victim?" she asked. "You're spoiled, Madison. Always have been." Michael earned his wedding. He didn't make things difficult. I tilted my head. "And what exactly did I do that was so difficult, Mom?" "Asked to be treated like your daughter." She didn't respond. Her silence was louder than any scream. My father stepped in, face pale. "Madison, please. Let's talk privately." I looked at him. "Now you want to talk?" He exhaled slowly. "I wanted to help. I really did. But your mother said it would be rewarding bad behavior if we funded your wedding after all the trouble you've caused over the years." "What trouble?" I demanded. He looked down. "Your independence. Your choices. Your refusal to be like your brother." There it was. The unspoken truth. I had always been second place in a race I never wanted to run. Ethan stepped onto the stage. "May I?" he asked. I nodded. He grabbed the mic and looked at the crowd. "Hi, I'm Ethan, Madison's very proud husband. And I just want to say one thing. This woman? She didn't need her parents' money. She didn't need permission. She didn't need applause. She stood up for herself and gave us a wedding that's not only unforgettable, it's honest." He raised his glass. "To Madison, the bravest woman in the room." Applause erupted. Real applause. The kind that shakes you. Something shifted. Aunt Lila walked out of her seat and hugged me. Uncle Darren clapped me on the back. Even Michael's best man gave Ethan a thumbs up. The room began to divide. Not with conflict. With clarity. Some people stayed seated. Others stood on our side. My mother sat down hard. She opened the envelope at her place setting. Inside, a photo of Ethan and me at City Hall weeks ago, smiling wide, with a marriage certificate stamped and dated. My father's envelope had something else. A letter. One I wrote months earlier. It read, "Dear Dad, you always said integrity was what mattered. That a man is only as good as how he treats his daughter. So I want you to know, I never stopped hoping you'd see me. And even if you never do, I'm not sorry I gave you the chance." He folded the letter, pressed it to his lips. Tears welled in his eyes. He didn't say a word, but he stood, and he clapped. I woke up in our apartment the next morning with confetti still in my hair. My phone had blown up overnight. 37 texts, 18 voicemails, dozens of missed calls. Ethan was already in the kitchen making coffee. "You ready for the fallout?" he asked, handing me a mug. I sipped it slowly. "No, but I'm ready to stand by what we did." We had pulled off something audacious. A wedding hidden inside a lie. Yes, but it was also the truth finally made visible. But truth doesn't come without consequences. No message from her. Not a single one. Not even a passive-aggressive Facebook post. My dad sent a text at 7:04 a.m. "Dad, we should talk. Just you and me. No drama. Lunch today." I agreed. Ethan gave me a look. "You sure?" "I need to know what happens when the dust settles," I said. Of all people, I didn't expect to hear from Michael. But there he was, calling me while I sat in the park, waiting for Dad. "Madison," he said, voice clipped, "we need to talk. That stunt you pulled, it blew up the family." I laughed bitterly. The family was already fractured, Michael. I just shined a light on it. He exhaled hard. "Jen is furious. Mom's a wreck. They think you humiliated them." "I didn't humiliate them," I said calmly. "I just made them sit through something they never wanted to see." "Well," he said, his voice sharp now, "I hope it was worth it. Because Mom said she's cutting you off." "Completely." "Cut me off from what?" I replied. "She never gave me anything to begin with. What I didn't anticipate. Someone had recorded the moment," I said. "This is my wedding." It went viral. A clip from a cousin's Instagram story was picked up by a wedding drama TikTok account, then by a podcast, then a Reddit thread titled, "Woman hijacks her parents' party to host her own wedding, and people are loving it." In 48 hours, my inbox flooded with interview requests. Some praised me. Some hated me. But most couldn't stop watching. I met Dad at a small bistro downtown. He looked tired, but not angry. "That letter," he said slowly, "I've read it 14 times." I stared at my plate. I meant it. Every word. He nodded, then reached into his coat pocket and slid an envelope across the table. Inside, a check. "It's what we would have spent on your wedding. And more. If you'll accept it." My jaw clenched. "Why now?" "Because I realized something," he said. "You didn't need a party. You needed to be seen. And I was blind for too long." When Ethan's parents saw the video, they called us immediately. "Madison," his mom said through happy tears, "I'm so proud of you. I always knew you were brave. But now the world knows." His dad chimed in. "Let us throw you a party. A real one. For you and Ethan. No strings attached." It wasn't about the size of the venue or the guest list. It was the gesture. Unconditional love. No comparison. No favoritism. Just family. That night, Ethan and I sat at our tiny kitchen table with the check still sitting between us. "What do we do?" he asked. I ran my fingers along the edge of the envelope. "We cash it," I said. "Not for revenge. Not to prove anything. But because it's finally being offered for the right reasons." He raised his glass. "To the future. To the truth," I added. They thought the story ended when the music stopped. But the real celebration? It's still coming, and this time, everyone's watching. As the days passed and the wedding buzz faded from the internet, I found myself doing something I hadn't done in years, writing letters. I wrote one to my high school self, one to my future daughter, one to my mother that I never sent. Each letter became a ritual, a healing, a reckoning. In one, I wrote, "You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are not cruel for saying no. And you are not less just because someone else always got more." Those words stayed taped to my mirror for weeks. Ethan and I bottled wine from the leftover grapes at the vineyard. Just a few dozen bottles. On each label, we printed one word, enough. It wasn't about quantity. It was a declaration. We gave them to friends, family, people who'd stood with us. A reminder that they didn't need to prove anything anymore. "You are enough," it said on the back label. Exactly as you are. It had been almost a year. No contact. No texts. Just the pie by mail. But then, one night, as we sat watching the fire crackle in our living room, my phone lit up. "Mom." I stared at the screen. "Answer it," Ethan said gently. So I did. She didn't start with an apology. She started with, "I watched the video. And then, I saw you." That night, we talked for 2 hours. About everything and nothing. She cried. I listened. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She asked for time. And for the first time, I considered giving it. It arrived on a Tuesday. A slim package. No return address. Inside, a leather-bound journal. Empty. And one note. "You were right. I wasn't. This is yours to write now. M." I stared at the note for a long time. It wasn't a grand gesture. It was something better. A start. We didn't tell anyone. Just drove back to the vineyard. Just us. No dress. No music. Just promises. Ethan took my hand. I vowed to love you then, he said, but I didn't know how much you'd teach me. I smiled. And I vow to never shrink again, I said. To stand tall beside you. The wind carried our words away, but I'll remember them always. That night, we opened one last bottle of enough and sat beneath a blanket of stars. No cameras, no applause, just us. And in the silence, I whispered to the woman I used to be. You made it. Unbeknownst to me, Ethan had written a letter of his own, one to my father. He never told me what it said, only that it wasn't angry, it was honest. Months later, Dad showed up at our front porch. No speech, no expectations, just a six-pack of beer and a tired look in his eyes. I miss my kid, he said. So we talked. Slowly, carefully, like tiptoeing across a frozen lake. But we didn't fall through. I started a community project, a garden, for all the women who never got the seat at the table. We called it the Garden of Second Blooms. Every flower bed was named after someone who wrote me a letter after our wedding. We planted hope. We grew healing. And in that garden, every forgotten daughter felt seen. I hadn't seen my cousin since the night of the wedding. But one Saturday she knocked. This time, no cameras. No nerves. Just her. She held a manila envelope. There's something you need to see, she said. It's about Mom. And about your wedding. You need to know the full truth. I opened the manila envelope slowly, the weight of Jenna's eyes pressing on me harder than the document itself. Inside were 5 pages. All typed. All dated. All signed. My mother. My wedding. A timeline. Jenna sat across from me at our kitchen table, her fingers twisting the hem of her sleeve. She didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. But that doesn't make it right. The papers were a correspondence, emails between Mom and a woman named Darlene. Darlene was my father's ex. She was also Michael's godmother. But more than that, she was the mastermind behind every exclusion I endured during the wedding. Every flower budget cut. Every vendor cancellation. Every time they couldn't make room. Mom was in on it. She'd known. She'd even suggested moving my date. My throat burned. And then Jenna reached into her purse and pulled out a USB drive. There's more. This is harder. Ethan plugged the USB into his laptop. He turned the screen away, giving me space. I clicked on the file. A recording. Mom, Dad, Michael, Jenna. It was taken a week before the wedding. At my parents' house. I heard them laughing. Then Mom's voice. It's not that I don't love her. It's that she's exhausting. Always trying to prove something. Michael chimed in. She'll be fine. She always bounces back. That's what makes her the perfect scapegoat. I stopped the recording. Silence set heavy in the room. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I breathed. Because for the first time in my life, I saw the pattern. And patterns only have power when we repeat them. I'm done, I said. Done with what? Ethan asked gently. Done performing. Done chasing. Done trying to belong in a place that never wanted me. That night, I wrote a letter to Mom. It was 4 pages long, laced with memories, laced with pain. But when I finished, I folded it, slipped it into a drawer. Some things aren't meant to be sent. Some truths are only for the record. A month later, we hosted a community event at the Garden of Second Blooms. I stood in front of a group of women, many of whom had lived versions of my story. I told them about the wedding, the recording, the silence that followed. And then I said, you don't need their permission to shine. You never did. Ironically, it was the same wedding video that built our joy that began his unraveling. Michael's company received backlash. Quiet at first, then louder. Vendors pulled out. Clients backed off. His fiancée delayed their honeymoon indefinitely. And then, one day, I got a letter. From him. It wasn't flowery. It wasn't long. You deserved more than we gave. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope for peace. He enclosed a photo. The 3 of us. Me, him, and Jenna. From years ago. On the back, he wrote. This was the last time we were real. I miss that. I miss you. I burned it. Not out of hate. Out of release. Some bridges need to stay burned. She came to the house. Unannounced. Uninvited. She stood on the porch with tired eyes and a trembling hand. I have nothing left but truth, she said. May I come in? We didn't talk about the wedding at first. Or the audio. We talked about the first time I broke my arm. The way I used to sing in the car. The books I wrote in secret. Then I asked her the question I never had the courage to ask. Why didn't you choose me? She blinked back tears. I was afraid you wouldn't need me. So I clung to the one who did. I didn't need you to protect me from failure, I said. I needed you to see me when I stood alone. She nodded slowly. I see you now. It wasn't enough, but it was something. That spring, Ethan's sister Rachel got married. She asked us to officiate. And in a sunlit barn filled with wildflowers and rescued chairs, I watched love happen. This time, no games. No family politics. Just joy. We started mentoring women who'd been through wedding trauma. Yes, it's a thing. And one day, a woman named Gloria came in. She was older, fierce, and after hearing our story, she said, "Sometimes the best revenge isn't power. It's peace." It wasn't grand. Just a photo of our dog with a tiny pair of shoes in front of her. Caption: "Looks like we're adding a new branch to the garden." Months later, while cleaning, I found the letter I wrote to Mom. I read it. I cried. And then I wrote a new one. Not for her. For my child. When the baby came, we named her Hope. Not just for what we endured, but for what we built. Because in the end, I didn't choose revenge. I chose something better. A life. A love. A legacy. If you've ever felt like the background character in your own life, this is your permission to rewrite the script. Because you don't need anyone else to hand you the pen. It was always yours.